Hey garden friends, well this video didn't turn out the way I had originally planned. Do you ever have those projects where you start on it and then before you can proceed you realize you have to do something else first and then that leads to something else and then your original plan kind of falls by the wayside? Yeah, that happened here. But we're going to tackle just a few garden chores that can help you be prepared for next spring and can tidy up a space in your garden. So let's get rolling. All right, yeah, I had started this out showing my artist garden and what a mess it was and my plans to clean it up. Well, in my plans to clean it up, I ended up having to do a few other things that I hadn't anticipated. So this ended up being an hour long. We don't need an hour. So I'm only going to do a few things that I started. I'll show you, first of all, a clip of how this garden looked as I was introducing it. And then we'll jump right into dividing an iris. So let's start on that one. Now I have a couple of videos or a few videos on digging, dividing iris, also how you can do it in spring and not lose blooms. And my shadow will probably get in here because of this angle of the sun. But I need to pull away the weeds, dig them up. I'm not too worried about digging up any of this creeping Jenny because it will come up. Now you notice you cannot see the tops of the rhizomes in here. And that's because I do bury the very tops of the rhizomes, depending on where you live. And I got this from 2 or 3 different rose farms. And you cover the backs of the rhizomes if you live in a hot climate that gets a lot of hot sun, because they will scald. And many people will tell you to leave the back showing. Well, that's not accurate in all areas. Some areas you need to bury them just a touch, just to protect them from hot sun. So decide on that. I mean, you can go to like Sutton's Iris Garden. They have the same motto. And then also Superstition Iris Gardens. That's where I got a bunch of mine. And they live down in the lower Central Valley of California, and it gets very hot. So to protect them, you want to bury them a little bit, the tops. The leaves will absorb enough of the warmth to reproduce well and to bloom well. So all of mine are buried a little bit, and you notice if you saw any of my iris garden tours that they bloom just fine. I just wanted to get that in there before I forgot. Okay, so I got underneath here and trying not to, my irrigation hose is right here, and that is a juncture, and I don't want to mess that up. Okay, now this soil is very moist, so it's clumping around. So I'm just going to beat the soil or the rhizomes against the soil top. And you can see these are some very healthy growing leaves. And if I needed to, I would hose off to see where I could see. But I'm just going to pull these apart because that's how I fly. And you see how that pulled off? Now it doesn't have a long, big rhizome, but it works just fine. So yeah, I'm pulling this out of here because it was too tall in front of these other plants. And I'm just going to weed out while I'm in here. Now this is my Daisy May daisy, and it does, I wanted it there. It does beautiful. I have a, back here, I have a Russian sage, which it's so shaded from everything right here, I'm going to have to move that. I thought that was a good place for it, and I was wrong. So I dug up. I was careful to get around all of it. There's still more over here that I can dig up. I didn't want this so far forward. And this one I think is white hot. Let me see, no, I thought I saw the tag on it, but I don't. Sometimes I leave the tags on them. Now, you see this one? Right here? That has been chewed on by a gopher. I've got gophers. And yeah, they get in here. Either that or I nicked it. I think that's gopher though, the way it looks chewed. Let me see. Or maybe it was me nicking it, but that's okay. These will all be fine. I would let these air dry for a day and it'll heal over. And okay, so there we have these irises. Look how many more irises I have. So for me, because this is so wet, I would let these dry. We're gonna have dry weather the next couple of days. I'll set them out here on my sidewalk and let them dry. Just a touch. See this one's very solid, but see where the old part came off? Right there. And this clump is all kind of mushed together. I can just break off pieces. And that has a little baby on it, so I could put this in a pot. It could grow on, or I could just give it away. All right, so normally we don't get rains this early like we have, and the soil's dry when I do this. I'll show them to you on the sidewalk, but if you want to go back and see any of my other videos, you can. And even this little baby one may bloom next year, and it may not, but I'll pot it up. So here are my iris rhizomes, and they're a little bit muddy. I'm gonna try not to get my shadow too far in here. Now I could plant this one together, and it would be a bushier plant next spring, but I'm just gonna pull it apart. I'm not too careful. They'll snap apart at a natural juncture many times, but if you wanted to go in and hose off all the dirt so you really saw where it was at to cut it, then you go right ahead. So I'm gonna trim all these roots back. You can cut them way back. These, if you ever gotten irises in the mail or even bought them at a big box store, you will note how short the roots really are. And then I'll just cut back the leaves to replant. Now, some of these, like I said, will go in pots, and I'm gonna leave the pots out. Hopefully they will bloom next spring, and then I can have an iris sale. People like to buy things that are in bloom. And same with this one. I'll cut these roots back. Now, cutting them back, it does stimulate new root growth. And you notice I don't do it at an angle or anything. People say, oh, it causes rot because it doesn't drain water off. That's a bunch of wives' tales. They do just fine. Some people do it because it's prettier to have like a shape to that, but this is ready for replanting. I'm trying to get all this stuff out of here. It is so much easier to replant these without long roots. Now, I have no trouble with any kind of disease or whatever in my soil with my irises, but some people have. So if you had it, you would want to dust these raw edges with sulfur, and that would help prevent any problems with that. But like I said, I've never had any issues. And also that is why I would, if it's warm and sunny, I will leave these out for a couple days, and those little areas will heal over, or at least dry up. I guess they call it healing over, but I don't know if that's healing or just drying up. Now this was one iris rhizome I had put in there long ago, well, a couple of years ago, and look how many I got from it. Just perfect. keeps going and going. So here they are laid out on the sidewalk to a couple of days to kind of dry up those raw edges. And yeah, this is just a precaution. You don't have to do this, but it is said to help prevent disease from going into the rhizome or infecting those edges that are where they broke apart. So it doesn't hurt to take a day or two, especially if it's going to be sunny and warm, not too warm. And yeah, so that's what I'm going to do there. But I'll show you how I replant them in a moment. So I just wanted to take a minute to chat with you here. Now I'm going to prune back, cut back hard, the Nepeta that's flopping. Now I could try to stake it up. It's just so late in the season that it's not really worth it. Now, one reason I would wait to chop it back would be the pollinators are really loving the flowers that are on it. But I have lots of other things that they are going crazy over. So that one plant won't be a big loss for them. I want to clean up that one bed so that when I come out and I walk by, I can see that one area that I had made progress on. And so if you focus in one area like that, then it can give you impetus to keep going because it's not so overwhelming, because I have a ton of iris I need to dig up. I have a ton of things I need to cut back. And if I could be so overwhelmed that I didn't do anything. So I'm going to dig up the banana cream daisy in a minute. I will divide it because I want to put both of them over here in the entrance garden. I think that also would be a good place for that shorter Nepeta, but I have some verbena that stays low, and I want something low on that corner. So yeah, I trying to think of how I want it to look next spring, what plants have been okay and done great, and what plants, the banana cream usually reblooms better for me than it did this year, but we didn't have quite that warm temperature, so it could depend on your weather, whether or not it reblooms. Now this is the banana cream, the original one, not the number 2, which I don't remember what supposedly the number 2 kept its yellow coloring longer or whatever. This one I have loved, and he normally, like I said, does rebloom. There are buds on it, but we're not going to have warm enough temperatures for it to bloom again. So that one and the Daisy May, I know the Daisy May is supposed to bloom longer than my crazy daisies or other Shasta daisies. They haven't for me, but they do have stayed shorter and didn't flop as easy as my taller crazy daisies or other Shasta daisies. So I think because this area gets watered well, the other daisies, the Shasta daisies, will tend to get floppy. When I had it out some by the roadside, they stayed upright, and that area doesn't get watered in the summer. They came up from seed, volunteered, and then did beautiful. If they don't get watered, they don't rebloom that well. So it's a trade-off. But yeah, if you have a dry area and you want to start Shasta daisies, they will stay upright if they get plenty of sun in an area that stays drier. But seed them right now, this time of year. This is early October. You can even do it in September. Yeah, that will work best. So let's dig up the Shasta daisy, and then I'll come back and I will show you. Maybe one of these will even have dried enough, one of the iris rhizomes, for me to replant. Now this is white hot. I do not have white hot on this side of my entrance garden, only on this side. So I think a repeat over here would be beautiful. It is a beautiful white with an orange tongue, or beard as it's called. And yeah, I think it'd be gorgeous repeated. So, and I got plenty. I have got tons. So I will pot up some more, and hopefully I will have, or I could give these away. I could ask around to friends and see if any of my friends want some of those irises. I have another one that's further back. So yeah, all is good. Let's get rolling on digging up that daisy and dividing it. Now, instead of seeing me, I try to get you up close so you can see better than just an overall picture of me. Let me see where the roots may start, and make sure I'm not getting any of my irrigation line. Now, one thing about it, this rains we have enjoyed the last 2 days, we got over an inch, really helped moisten the ground. Now this ground here is pretty well moist. Now I'm gonna beat this well onto the ground. Let's see, there's an oxalis I don't want transplanted. That will get fed to the chickens. They love them. Yeah, try to pinpoint any roots because they will come back voraciously. I probably didn't get them all. So that will be something I'll have to pull in the future again and again. Okay, so can you see that there? Now you can pull off little sections with roots and all. See that? We can pot that up. That's a new plant. But I want a bigger plant in the space that I'm going to put it. So I'm going to try and go down the center. Forgive all the street noise. Okay, I'm going to see if I can get this. Now, some people would have you take 2 forks in the center and pull it apart. I don't have 2 garden forks, so I just whack the Hades out of it and divide it that way. So there I have 2 divisions. This one's a little bit smaller than this one, but they both will work just fine. I can even divide this one again. It's big enough that I could divide it again. So I can decide whether I want to do that in a minute. Let's go plant this one up in another part of the garden. Maybe I'll even put it over here. I've got some irises over here that are a little too thick, so I could dig those up, put this in over there, and it'd be great continuity if I had divide this one in 2 and put it over there and then have this one over here. I think that's what I'll do. And then I'll pot this one up to grow. Oh, now I have 2. I can put in pots and grow on, and then maybe put them in the back in my secret cottage garden. Oh, some weird fungi there. Okay, so now this area is cleaned up to plant something else. I'm going to really think about what I want to put here. I'm not going to just do it now because I have plants. I really want to think about what I want to put in this bed because I've really made a mess of it this last 2 summers. And I really want this to be a showstopper. And yeah, so we will go from here. So here is the big patch of irises here that I think that daisy would do beautiful here. So here is some calamintha that I started from seed. So you know what? I'm not going to bore you to death with me cleaning up all the weeds before I do it. I want to be able to see everything. So I'm going to clean it up, then I'll come back and we'll dig up the iris and then plant the daisy. So I have pulled out masses and masses of this iris. And it's still, you see how this is kind of going in a half circle? The other part of this was here. It is still overcrowded. So I need to finish digging it up. I was going to just leave it because I was being lazy, and I thought, no, while I'm in here, I should just dig it up. Now I had pulled out, here's a foxglove. I had pulled out a bunch over here because this iris behind is not getting enough sunlight on the leaves. I probably should move it and maybe move it forward. It's called Got Milk. It's a real beautiful creamy white. And maybe I'll do that after a bit. But for now, I just wanted to make sure I get this one up. And I'll shake off the soil. You see all these roots, or rhizomes. Someone will always correct me no matter what I say. Okay, so let me see. This is my Sutton's Iris Garden Concertina. That's what I thought, and it is a very vigorous grower. And there's more back here, but I'm going to put 3 more back to have a beautiful bloom. So, can you see here? Yeah, you can. So I'm see how, this is where it joins to this mother rhizome. And I'm just gonna snap it off. And then I will prune back some of the roots. Don't I have my pruning? Helps stimulate, pruning the roots, helps stimulate more growth. I'll do it over here and I'll just pick them up. I was going to do it over my barrel. Now I'm gonna cut these back a little bit further. Now this bloomed, of course, in the spring, and with all the leaves here, I didn't prune them back or anything like many will do to keep them tidier looking in the garden. I just let them absorb as much sun as they can, and that helps to rebuild. Look at the roots from that one over there. Rebuild what food in the rhizome. I know it's probably driving somebody nuts that I say it two different ways. Okay, so the first one is going there. Like I said, I'm going to put 3 back, so it's a real lush full bloom, including I'm going to leave that one back there, and I will leave that foxglove. Like I said, I pulled out a bunch because it would have shaded out the others too much. Okay, so here's that same clump. This one doesn't have any on it, but you see right here, it's putting on babies, so that will still grow. It's not toast, and it's not mushy. There is no mushiness on any of mine that I have dug up. If there's a mushy or squishy or dried up part of it, you just toss it, you cut it out and toss it. But, so there's 2 here, so I'm just gonna kind of pull them apart gently and pull them away from the mother rhizome. Again, I'm gonna cut them back, pull off the dried leaves. Now, if you live in an area where you get a lot of summer rain or you don't have well-draining soil, I would plant it on a mound. But this is, as you can tell, is very well-draining soil. So I have no problem, and I even have an irrigation piece here. So it actually gets quite a bit of moisture in summer. So let's see, let me build this up. Pull all the stuff out of it. All the debris. And okay, so here's another piece, and I'm just gonna pull this little baby off. And this, I call it the mother when there's not really anything on it, just one's coming out of it, and then there's another one coming right there. So there's that piece. Now, why do I do 3 together like this? That is to have a fuller bloom instead of just 1. Next spring, I could do just 1, and that's totally optional. This is just, I like a lot. I am an iris fanatic. And so I'm trying to get all the debris out, and I keep sweeping it back in there. I have a bucket behind me. Okay, so you noticed when I planted these, I planted them with the nose of the rhizome going all towards each other. And that is the way I do. I learned that at an iris farm I went to, in a class I went to there. And if you want it to grow but not get too together or grow together too much, you do it in this way. And they have room to expand, put on their own babies. And it'll be a couple years before I have to do this again, unless I want to move it or put something else in here. So now that I have this all dug up, there's another piece I pulled out. That one was really in need of dividing. So that was concertina, and it just really did beautiful last year. It was really lush and thick, even though it was so full. So now what am I gonna do in this spot? This is where I wanna put that daisy. And there's an old rhizome that, see how this is all crusty and yucky looking? Has no babies on it? That's for the trash. My neighbor going by. Okay, there's a lot of seedlings of something coming up here, and I probably don't want them. So even though I didn't really look closely at what they were before I dug them up, I just went ahead and shaved them off. I knew there was some oxalis in there I wanted to get out. Okay, so I dug the hole, loosened the soil, and I'm going to go grab one of those banana cream daisies. Now this is the larger one that I could have divided again, and there's another couple pieces that broke off. But I want it to be nice and big. Now I'm going to do the same as far as pruning down the roots. Root pruning stimulates new root growth, which the soil pretty much is still warm enough to encourage root growth, but it helps you to be able to get it in here without, you don't want the roots to wad up. That's why cutting them off is better. And even you could leave them on the top of the soil to deteriorate. It won't hurt anything. But, so you put it down on the soil and make sure it's at the same height that was over there when it was planted in the other bed. Make sure you get the soil all back around it without digging up your irises you just planted. And we call it good. Now this iris here might struggle to get some sun until it gets a little bigger, but especially as the sun goes behind the trees a lot this time of year. But we have all the others in there that will thrive. So it's no great loss if that one doesn't make it, but the way irises grow for me, it probably will. So there we have planting my banana cream daisy. Now I will come back here with some water and I'll water it in well to make sure there's no air in there. But you notice how crumbly the soil was. There's not much chance of there being air pockets because it's so crumbly, it just falls back in around there. But so all of these over here, I've got a mess. I'm going to figure something out. Maybe I'll put them on the back lane garden until another time just so they live. But yeah, that I don't have to really do something with them. I could also have a giveaway, like I said, with the others. Okay, so there's planting one. I'm going to plant the other division over in the other garden. And I could, this does have some buds on it, but like I said, I doubt I'm going to get any flowers, especially after the shock of transplanting, but I could leave it there. Leave them on for now. So here is the pots that I put the other two in, and then here's this one. Actually, there's two here, but I'm going to put them both in this pot because that's what I've got is 3 pots. So I'll use just the soil here. Now, usually you don't use garden soil, but mine is super loose, and they're not going to be in the pots that long. So putting them in the pots with this soil is not going to be the end of the world. And I should grab my pruners. I'll just cut that root off and put it in the pot. You notice I didn't fill the pot out all the way. And I will, to prevent it from flopping over, I can come in and cut these down much lower. It won't hurt them one little bit. In fact, let me do that right now. Now, before winter hits, I will get some more of the pathway bark. It's worked so well. I would love to do more of the micro clover as on it instead of pathway bark, but I haven't got there yet. So I'm going to go plant the other one just like that one, and you don't need to watch because it's going to be exactly the same. Then we'll get to pruning back that nepeta. Okay, so we're going to tackle this nepeta that's flopped. And yeah, we don't want it to cause any rotting below. You want to cut these back for winter anyways because, or at least I do, it prevents a lot of problems. Now I have a irrigation running here, so I got to be careful of that hose. And I'm just cutting it back to probably around 4 to 6 inches. And next year, since I see how tall it is, I'm going to put a ring around it to support it up right so it doesn't flop so much. And it could have flopped because it gets more irrigation. You know, sometimes things that like drier soil will tend to get a little rangy and flop, have not as sturdy as stems if they get more moisture than they really absolutely necessary need. Like I said, with my Shasta daisies, it did that too. So there is a geum underneath here that was getting smothered. And I do want to see if I can get those geums to bloom next year. I have my friend that lives down the hill from me, her geums are still blooming beautifully. So I want this to get as much sun as possible, and that will help them to bloom. They didn't bloom this year, so maybe they're the type that takes a couple of years to get going. This is my first year really growing geums, and these are the ones I grew from seed. I also have my totally tangerine geum over there that's more of, it's a hybrid, so you can't do it from seed. But yeah, look at this geum right here. It's getting a little swamped by this too. So it will get more sun. There's a couple of things down here that's looking a little messy. And there we go. Now there's another geum right here. And then there's another, I didn't realize there was two catmins in here. So they were both getting a little out of hand. And so next year, probably I'll prune this back to keep it away from this geum, this direction. It looks like maybe it is too big to be next to these two geums, and I may need to relocate it. I'm not going to do it now, but it's real easy to dig up like I showed with the other one. And yeah, just relocate it. So it could go, I could put this like in the front of the fence beside the road. It's drier there, so it may stay more upright and be just as pretty. And easier to cut back. I wouldn't say easier, but yeah, that was kind of a misnomer there. It just maybe would be more, have more of a tendency to cut it back. And this is my sunset salvia. This one should bloom like the other one I shared that all summer long, and I'm hoping it will. Okay, finding more stems to cut back. So I'll cut back the other one as well, and we'll see how those do. Now all of these irises in this bed will get pruned back. And let me tilt you up to see. I need to kind of cut this thing off here. I'm getting this too long and windy, but I will take my shears, hedging shears, and I'll show you what I'm going to do. I'm not going to do all of it because it'll take too long, but I'm going to come in and I'm just going to chop all of these iris back and then collect up the leaves so they're not laying on the ground. Yep, accidentally chopped on my salvia, but that's okay. We're at the end of the season. And yeah, that will tidy up this bed. I will be able to examine the irises close up, see if any of them need to be divided. All of these, I had thought about removing the snapdragons, and I thought, no, they will be a beautiful early spring color because they like blooming when it's cooler. So yeah, I'll leave them in. I did put some daffodils in here I found laying on the ground that I had removed from a container and then never potted up. So that's why I'm kind of smoothing this down here. And I see I have in here a Jupiter's beard. That will also be early color. Don't scream because I'm cutting off some of these salvias. It's just that time of year when I need to chop back things, even if they are blooming a bit. And once I chopped all the irises back, I can see where my geums are, make sure they're getting plenty of sun. And yeah, see, snapdragons just can be cut right back the same. So I will clean up all of the leaves and we'll see what we got. I'll probably dig up that echinacea too. I'm going to share something with you here. This is my Katie Saul. Hopefully, let me see if you can see over here really quick. I think you can. We'll see. Over here is my Katie Saul. It is a hybrid, sterile hybrid that you cannot get from seeds, but you can divide it. But because the gophers absolutely love all my echinaceas, I have it planted in the ground in a container. And the roots had gone down through the bottom, as they will, but the main body of it is in here, and then the gophers can't eat it. But I wanted to move this anyways. It got too obscured by everything. And yeah, I got another place I can put this. So you see how easy that was? And it'd be really easy to pop this out of the pot and to divide it, and I'd have 2 instead of a 1. I have a whole blog post and video on dividing echinaceas. So if you need to see that one in detail, go on over there. Okay, I'm going to continue cleaning up this bed, and maybe I'll show you the after. Well, not maybe, I will. I'll show you the after in a bit. Well, I hope you enjoyed this video and a view of what the artist garden looks like now. And I'm going to show you some things that, or we're going to talk about a few things I'm going to change in it. So let's turn the camera around and talk about things I'm thinking of for this garden bed for next year. So you can see here, see how much tidier it is. The iris of most of them have been cut back. I have a few more to cut back. Now the daisies I potted up definitely need some water, but they're mostly just in shock. And here is the echinacea that I pulled up out of the ground. It also could use some water. I may give this away to a friend. This is actually called Katie Saul, and I have a friend named Katie Saul. I was going to ask her if she wanted one of these. I have another one over in the Rose Cottage garden. But here's the Nepitas that I chopped back. And here's a geum, and here's a geum. Now these got pretty tall, and they flopped. So I'm thinking I will dig these out. I think this is Sebastian. Either that or Cat's Meow. I can't remember which ones I put here. There's one there and one there. I'm thinking about putting these out by the front garden gate or garden fence line. It's very dry there, hot. I think these may do quite well, or I would hope. And maybe not get so floppy because they won't get quite as much water. It's a test. We'll see. Or I may find somewhere else for them. Right here on this corner where these are at, my shadow's at, I have a white verbena. It's called Endurance. Let me go get it. So here it is right here. So it's called Endurascape White Verbena, and it stays very low growing. And I thought this would be the perfect spot right here, so it wouldn't be so tall as to block the view of the rest of the plants, but would provide a beautiful white color through the summer. Now I have one similar to this planted at a friend's down the road, and it has bloomed nonstop through the summer just beautifully. So I think that would make a great spot here. It won't block this geum, and it won't flop over onto things like the cats or the nepeta, whichever we don't call it. I don't know what this plant is. It's something very different. It looks like something I don't want in there. I should dig that up and make sure. The snapdragons in here, I had thought about removing them, but I thought they would make great spring color, and then I can take them out and move them somewhere else. All of these irises, many of these, they are kind of a little bit crowded, but not too bad. So I'm still waiting on that. I have so many to cut back throughout all of my gardens that I've got to make the best use of my time. Now this salvia, it gets too tall, so that's going to go. I'll dig it up and I'll transplant it. This could also go out by the front gate or the front fence line. Yeah, so that's a lot of things that I'm doing differently. The dahlia never did anything here. I have no idea why, because all my other dahlias did beautiful, and they were in spots that or I would say would be less friendly, but you never know. You never know. So this is what the bed looks like, pretty much cleaned up. I will cut back the rest of the iris and all of that, but that is the after, which it looks 100% better already. And you can see all the irises still laying in the path that I dug up. Those are concertina. And the one back here, that big fluffy black-eyed Susan, still loving that thing. We're getting a lot of glare here. That's okay, I just had to show you. This Zinfandel hydrangea. I do not know why Proven Winter stopped carrying it, but it has been the most, I love it more than all the others I have. And yeah, it is just gorgeous. I'm gonna cut some of these canes back that are flopping forward, and I'm gonna pop them in pots and see if maybe I can get some more of it. I have a couple other spots I would love to put one of these. So, and also over here is my limelight. I'm thinking I'm going to dig that up and I'm going to move that on the other side of the garden. Just a couple of ideas. Tell me what you think. All right, I'll see you in my next video. Bye.